Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for staying in hall and welcome to those online as well. So for this Bible talk, I must confess, you said Bible hour, Daz. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to speak for an hour, or maybe shouldn't on this subject, because when we're talking about evidence of a designer, I am passionate about the natural world. I love being in nature. I love marveling at the beauty of the world that we live in. It's so diverse and beautifully complex, and yet all intrinsically works together in harmony. I've also been blessed to experience different ecosystems all around the world, and it continues to amaze me at the biodiversity that we are filled with in this world. We have such a diverse planet in terms of the animals that inhabit it, the trees, the plants, everything that's part of the world is amazing. And so I have limited some of the areas that I could talk about for much longer, but we're going to briefly consider these points. So firstly, why should we consider evidence of a designer? Why should we consider a designer that created the world? Why should we not accept the current world thinking, which we will briefly look at as well? And then I want us to look at the natural world and look at three creatures that we find within the world. So firstly, look at a cheetah. Now, I must confess that's my favorite animal, so I could talk well over an hour on that animal alone. But we're also going to look at a dolphin, and then we're going to look at an albatross as well. And you may be wondering, that's a bit of a weird collection, but a dolphin's my wife's favorite animal, and I have to admit I have a bit of a liking to an albatross because it's a bit of a mysterious enigma, to be honest. There's some myth and legends we'll talk about briefly when considering it as well. And then finally, I want us to think about man. So if the animals are designed in such a way, how is man designed? Why is man designed the way it is? And then finally, what is the relevance to you listening to this talk? If I'm putting forward that there is a designer, why is that relevant to you now? Why should you listen to that? So firstly, to look at a proof of a designer. So firstly, I'm going to say that to look at proof of a designer, look at the natural world around us. You can see it in everything from the birds in the hedgerows to the lions on savannah. You can, when you go home, you can see it in your garden. And you'll see that these ecosystems work so perfectly. You see when stuff is out of balance, how it corrects itself. You could look, this shows how nerdy I am, at Yellowstone National Park and how they had a problem with algae in a lake. So introduce wolves as an apex predator, and then it solved the ecosystem so that it fit together perfectly. And then I also am saying to you that experiencing nature can be life-changing. I have been incredibly blessed to go on safari. And when I was sat next to the elephants in the van and told to be very quiet and not make any sudden movements, you could experience a presence to the elephants. There was something about them that made it feel deep within me. And to me, that points towards a designer. And then I believe that the God in the Bible, which we had read in Genesis chapter 1, is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And I want to make that clear from the start. And there's many other talks, I'm sure, from this platform that talk about our beliefs and for the reasons that we have, that the God of the Bible is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So I want us to think briefly about the current world thinking. Now, this is a quote that I found from National Geographic explaining how the world came to be as it is. And it says, billions of years ago, Earth, along with the rest of our solar system, was entirely unrecognizable. existing only as an enormous cloud of dust and gas, eventually a mysterious occurrence, one that even the world's foremost scientists have yet been able to determine, created a disturbance in that dust cloud, setting forth a string of events that would lead to the formation of life as we know it. And I actually thought, on the whole, that's a balanced assessment from National Geographic. Even though they have these scientists have theories about it happening by chance, National Geographic still recognizes that it cannot be explained at the moment. And so this is one of the reasons that I'm putting forward the idea of a designer to you. So firstly, I want us to consider the cheetah as a reason for design. And firstly, I want us to think about the environment that a cheetah lives in, because we know that cheetah inhabits a broad section of Africa, including areas of North Africa, the Sahara, Eastern and Southern Africa, and also there's a small population in northern Iran. And over the past 50 years, just for your information, cheetahs have become extinct in 13 countries. But largely, the cheetahs are critically endangered, but they thrive in areas with vast expanses of land where prey is abundant. So, for example, in Namibia, cheetahs live in a variety of habitats, including grasslands, savannas, dense vegetation, and mountainous terrain. But of course, with much of the natural world, as human development expands into their preferred habitat, the natural historical ranges of these animals is declining. And so we have evidence as well of cheetahs being good house pets. They are more dog than cat in their genetics. And so you can go back thousands of years and find evidence that they were actually pets to kings and emperors thousands of years ago. But they are perfectly designed for the environment that they live in. Living in Africa, a very dry environment, cheetahs can easily go 4 days without water and can survive up to 10 days without water because they can absorb fluids from the animals that they hunt. And now that's pretty special to not to go with water without water for 4 days and survive up to 10 days, because I don't know about you, but after a couple of hours or after a bit of exercise, I am dying for a drink. And so I want us to think about the design of a cheetah. So, and specifically, I want us to focus on the speed of a cheetah here. I'm sure many of you are familiar that a cheetah is the fastest land animal and can run up to speeds of 70 miles an hour, which made me think on the way here that it'd be running alongside me when I was going down the motorway. Paint a nice picture in my head. However, they have prominent characteristics that mean that they are able to do this. They have small heads and long legs to get the best out of aerodynamics laws. They have a flexible spine, which allows for extreme extension during the run. You can see here on the screen that the cheetah is actually contracting before it will extend itself and probably take a bound of almost 10 meters. They have their foot is designed in a special way so that only one of their feet is in contact with the ground at once. And in their feet, their claws are semi-retractable, which is unique to cats because they're not fully retractable so that they can accelerate when required. And along with this, they have been designed with wide nostrils, a powerful heart, and large lungs to allow more oxygen to the muscles to facilitate this extreme speed in the natural world. Because the cheetah's anatomy is all set for sprinting. And these cats can reach these speeds in just a few short strides. But it comes across like you and I, if we sprint, it takes us a while to recover, and it can take cheetahs up to 30 minutes to recover before these speeds. So this is one reason that I'm looking at this animal and going, it must be designed. It's so perfectly designed for the way that it catches its prey. And I want us to focus on one particular aspect of that design right now. And I have to admit, so surprised that I caught a still image of this. So on the screen here, you can see the cheetah leaning one way as it's running, and yet you can see the tail pointing in the other direction. Because prey knows that it has very little chance of outrunning a cheetah in a straight line. Therefore, they change direction often, twisting, turning, and jumping to make their getaway. And while most cats have a round, fluffy tail like your house cat, if you have one, the cheetah tail is actually a flat surface, like a rudder of a ship. It helps the cheetah to perform turns at sharp speed. So by swinging the tail from side to side, it acts as a counterbalance, allowing the cheetah to control its steering and keep its balance. And couple that with its flexible spine, and the vertebrae in its spine has greater movement, and its unique hips. It allows for its front and hind limbs to overlap while running, giving the cheetah more distance per stride and allowing it to actually turn in the air, which is quite special when you actually think about it. Because when it's sprinting, it actually spends more time in the air than on the ground. And I did like this photo as well, because you can see the baby cheetah copying its mother, I guess, in the background. And so we've talked about the environment that a cheetah inhabits. And I want us to focus on the eyes and the face here. You can see the look of focus in it. Because cheetahs have long black lines that you can see there running down its face. And they are called malar stripes or malar marks. And they are designed for deflecting the brightest sunlight off the horizon for the wide open savannas, allowing them to see better in the daylight. And so this helps the cheetah focus on their prey when they are hunting. No other big cat has that. And that's because no other big cat hunts during the day predominantly. To avoid competition, cheetah hunt during the day to avoid competition from lions and hyenas that also inhabit their environment. I want us now to think about cheetah cubs. That did come out all right. I was nervous that I wouldn't really be able to see it and it would be too well hidden. But that's the point I want to make. Cheetah cubs, when they are born, have the fluff that you can see on top of their head there, so that it can blend into the background. It can hide, it can be camouflaged, so that when its mother goes hunting and it's left behind, it doesn't have to worry about being taken by hyenas or lions or even vultures and baboons in its environment. They blend with the tall grass in the savannah. Their brown spots also keep them camouflaged in the way that they break it up. And so it allows them to stay hidden away from predators until its cubs are old enough to protect themselves. Now, I did have a video here, but I can't seem to get... Never mind. Oh well. So a cheetah's vocalization is also very different. Cheetahs don't actually roar like other cats. And they don't meow like your house cat might. Instead of instilling a ferocious roar, they purr or chirp. And I was going to play a clip of them chirping. I'm tempted to replicate it, but I really won't. And they have a different voice box so that the cheetah cubs, another cheetah, won't mistake it for a lion or hyena. And so it becomes more like a chirp, like a bird. And it's a stutter bark, is how it's technically described, which sounds like a bird call. So these are some of the reasons of why I'm putting forward to you, just in this particular animal alone. And I have had to go very high level for the time that we have about why I think there is a designer. Because all of these things add up to a very special creature that is perfectly designed for the environment that it inhabits. So now want us to move on and think about something in the sea, to think about dolphins, and more commonly, bottlenose dolphins. And so bottlenose dolphins, I'm sure some of you might have seen them even in this country, because they are found around the world, in both offshore and coastal waters, including harbors, bays, gulfs, estuaries, and tropical waters. And so they live in temperate and tropical waters worldwide, and have been known to be seen in Cornwall down south. However, their range also extends to the Pacific Ocean, to Australia, from Southern California to Chile. They're found offshore in the Pacific as far as the Hawaiian Islands. More commonly, you find them around coastlands. But they are most abundant along the United States coast from Cape Cod through the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. However, also found in the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, the Indian Ocean. So this is a widespread animal that is designed in a way that means it can survive in most waters. And so I want us, firstly, with dolphins, to think about group dynamics. How do these animals interact? I don't know if you have ever tried talking underwater or communicating underwater, but it's a bit of a challenge. Being mammals, dolphins rely on social learning and relationships to survive. And so they form these groups to stay safe in these wide open oceans. And so in these pods, as they're called, they play, they babysit, they alert each other to danger, like predators, or to practice courtship and hunt together. And so, in fact, traveling in a group compensates for the smaller size. They're nowhere near as big as whales, but because of the group dynamics and other factors that we'll look at, they can survive well. And most amazingly, dolphins only sleep with one half of their brain. And so one half of their brain sleeps and another half is awake and keeps that eye open to be on the lookout for danger, to be alert and active. Now, I did attempt trying to sleep with one eye open after hearing about this, and I have to admit, I was not very successful. Even when I thought my eyes were open, I was asleep. And when I knew I was awake most of the other time. And so their brain is beautifully designed in a way that means that they can stay alert and active, because social ordering is very important in a pod, and communication is very necessary to survive in the wide open seas. And so how do they communicate? Because I did some research, and according to one expert, bottlenose dolphins are king of communication. They send each other messages in a variety of different ways, much like humans. Or maybe not the sounds. They squeak and whistle and also use body language, leaping out of water, snapping their jaws, and apparently even butt heads. But mostly, dolphins make two kinds of sounds, whistles and clicks. Clicks are used to sense their surroundings using echolocation, which is a system that has only been adopted by humans in technology in the last 60 years. And so they also have signature whistles, almost like we have signature DNA. They have a signature sound, which is used to identify each other as individuals. And echolocation works in a way that they emit sounds off them, and then the sounds get reflected back to them. And from that, they're able to determine distance, size, and all of that. Their brain is so amazing that they're able to do that. One thing I found really interesting was the fact that dolphins play. And so I put a photo here of a surfer surfing with dolphins. And this is regularly found along coastlines where dolphins inhabit. They will jump and play in the waves. And actually, last year on my honeymoon, I got to see dolphins playing in the break of a ship, and saw them jumping around and playing it. And it looked like they were having fun. They were leaping out of the water. And I could not believe it. It was a truly one-in-a-lifetime experience. But why they do it is it provides opportunities to practice and perfect movement skills, including foraging and mating and strategies and hunting behaviors. It acquires important social skills and acquire important information about the characteristics and predispositions of members in their social group. So like why we play as humans in our childhood or a little bit older to socialize, to interact and to learn, so dolphins do as well. And much like humans, it tends to be the calves of the dolphins, the children of the dolphins, that play more as well. However, what scientists have noticed that if more calves are involved, the complexity of play is higher as well, showing a greater brain function than most animals. And finally, I want us to look at the speed. So a dolphin's been clocked doing about 22 miles an hour, which on land, not particularly fast. But for a boat, that is very, very fast and would be faster than most boats that you'd see in a harbour. And so the scientists have used a hydrodynamic model to understand the size and power and how they are able to do this. And they describe it as fluid mechanics wizardry. Between the shape, the power of the tail, and the skin, they are able to reduce the amount of drag. However, they also do something which no other animal has been recorded doing. They blow little bubbles out the front, which creates a softer water for them to pierce through the water more easily. And to put that into context, for high 10-meter diving at the Olympics, they put bubbles as well to soften the surface of the water so that it doesn't hurt as much. However, when diving first started in the Olympics, they didn't do that, and apparently it was like landing in cement. So it shows how wonderfully designed these dolphins are to their environment to eke out every little bit of advantage that they can. Finally, I want us to think about as our last animal, the albatross. And I will admit it is a bit of an enigma because we don't see that in this country. And some species are exceedingly large with the wingspan extending over 3 meters, which when you think about it, for a bird that weighs no more than 25 kilos, it is very crazy. But that's because they spend much of their lives entirely at sea, soaring thousands of kilometers of meters in the pursuit of food, and typically only come ashore to breed. Well, the reason we haven't seen them is because their range extends across the southern hemisphere, mainly from Antarctica to South America to southern Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. However, there are a couple that extend up to Hawaii, Japan, and California. And so what do they feed on? Why do they need to travel such distances? Well, they feed primarily on squid and small fish, which they catch from the surface of the water. And to do that, they need to extend far into the sea. Now, why I mentioned them at the start is because there are many myths around albatrosses for sailors, because it's been said that shooting, killing, and eating albatross would bring back bad luck, whereas seeing one fly overhead could mean that the soul of a lost sailor was there to protect them or bring needed wings for the ship's sails. And there's been instances in historical data that shows that albatross do actually follow ships and will appear and disappear before storms or after storms because they have what scientists have known as a sixth sense about coming weather. Again, one of the reasons why they are perfectly designed for their environment. And so the note I put here for this slide is effortless. And the reason for that is they can fly for several miles without a single flap. Now, when you look at pigeons, it looks like hard work. I couldn't imagine a bird flying for several miles without a single flap. So this remarkable feat is accomplished by riding ocean winds, and so they catch skyward drafts to carry them along. And once their wings are fully extended, they have a tendon that locks them in place. Their wings are locked in place like that, almost like a hook or something like that. And so no other animal has that. And so no other flying creature can match the distance traveled by an albatross without beating its wings. Another point I wanted to make was that's quite scary, actually, quite big. It is that they mate for life. These great birds seek out a life partner and use a ritualized dance. They have their own specific dance for their partner. And once they have chosen their life partner, they remain together until death. And pairs have been observed lasting over 50 years. And so when albatross only visit land to breed and to care for chicks, coming together every few years after spending years at sea, they perform this dance. They know when to return. But this also makes them very rare to see. And so we see here in their mating rituals that they are designed in a way that caters for the lifestyle that these birds have. And finally, I want us to think about man. And this is why I had the reading from Genesis chapter 1, because we've looked at the different types of animals that are mentioned in Genesis chapter 1. And as I said at the start, that I believe that the God of the Bible is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And God says, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth. But I want us to focus on that phrase, let us make man in our image. We are special. Humans are different to the animals that we have looked at. We were designed for a special purpose, and we will touch on that purpose briefly. But I want us to think for a second about the complexity of man. We've looked at the few characteristics and special design elements that make up these other animals. When you think about the complexity of a human, from their eye to their mating lifestyle to their brain, we don't know. Dolphins are probably the second smartest creature, species on the planet, and yet they don't go to school. They haven't designed aircraft or boats or cars to go and land as quick as any other animal. And yet we have. Our brain is wonderfully powerful, and there's a reason for that. I didn't want to bore you, but you could also look at the statistics of man being created by chance. And let me tell you, it's like winning the lottery multiple times in a row. And that's just for one species, not for an ecosystem that's perfectly put together. The other thing that occurs in this verse is, let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over everything that creepeth on the earth. And when you think about the natural world, actually, humans do have dominion over a lot of it. Currently, we are in the process of destroying the world and damaging a lot of those ecosystems. But over the large proportion of creatures, we have dominion. And there's only a few animals that we should genuinely fear. But even then, we have been able to tame them and train them and adopt them as pets. You know, I've had the privilege of stroking a cheetah, and yet that's something that I would definitely not think about doing in the wild. Well, I'd think about it and then got told no. But it's something that we humans innately have. We do have dominion. As I said at the start, cheetahs have been pets for thousands of years. We have, as humans, a dominion over the animals. And so why is that? And how is that relevant to you? And I put this verse up because God saw that he had met everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And this is the last verse of the reading that we had. We talked about how God is the creator of everything. He made it and it was very good. We only have to look at the natural world to see how good it is. And so if you can look at the natural world and see how good it is, and your thoughts are starting to align with the God in the Bible, it starts to become relevant to you. But you may be sitting there and thinking, that's all well and good, but why would he create this for me? Well, he created this world for the earth to be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And you can see from the image that the waters cover a lot of the earth. He wants the world to be filled with his glory. And it is our purpose to do that. We find the purpose here written of us in Habakkuk 2 and chapter 14. The animals cannot do that. They cannot give glory to God. I have an ability here to speak about all these animals and to give glory to God, to talk about the intricacies of the design. God wanted us to be special. And if he wanted us to be special, why is that? To fill the earth with his glory, yes. He wants us to be a part of that. And there's many talks here from the platform that talk about how there will be someone called Jesus Christ. He will return to the earth and establish his kingdom. And we won't talk about that. But as part of that process, the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And so we've looked at a few reasons of why I believe there is evidence for a designer. And that designer is the Lord God in the Bible. And if you are interested in any more talks about what that might entail, the coming kingdom of God and what it looks like with the glory of the Lord, then please come along to some more talks. Thank you.